welcome to reunions, class of 79, 81, 80, 85, 90, 94, 95, 96, and 10. There's a lot of you here on campus. Welcome back. Welcome to the Thayer School. It might be, for some of you, your first time coming back in a while, and I'm sure quite a bit has changed. Brian's going to tell us a little bit more about what's changing specifically in his research field. So the name of this talk is Enhancing Engineering in Medicine, Students' Research, and Infrastructures. So thank you for attending. We're going to learn how the proposed doubling of Thayer will positively impact people in Brian's lab, and he does cancer imaging research, and exactly kind of what it'll do for both the undergraduate and graduate population here. So I'm pleased to introduce Brian Pogue, who I had the pleasure of working with back when he was Dean of Graduate Studies before John Cool came in. Brian received all of his degrees in Canada from York University for his bachelor's and master's, and then finally his PhD from McMaster University. Currently, Brian is the director of Thayer's MS and PhD programs, which we thank him for doing that, and we look forward to the presentation. For the alums in the room, we hope that you can join us for the reunion reception that we're having this afternoon from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock p.m. in Glycophi Atrium, which is just over there in the other part of the building. At that reunion reception, Dean Helbley will be discussing more of the expansion and giving an update on other things which are happening at Thayer. So after this lecture, we do have a tour of the Thayer School. So for those of you who want to go on the tour, we'll meet just outside right after the talk. So thank you so much.
Great. Thanks, Wes. So my name is Brian Pogue. I am a professor of engineering here. I've been at Thayer for almost 19 years, coming this fall. So I feel like an old timer now. I've been here a while, and as I thought about what to talk to you about, I have two roles here. I'm the advisor for the Biomedical Engineering program, so all the 18-year-old kids who come in who are thinking about biomedical engineering, I'm usually the one they talk to. And then my other hat is that I direct the MS and PhD programs. And so I thought I'd give you a cross-section of the programs, the students, research, and then the infrastructures. And as I get to the research infrastructures, I'll talk more and more about biomedical engineering specifically. That's been my experience here. But if you have questions, please, stick your hand up, just shout them out. So let me start with programs and students. We have it's surprisingly, for its very small engineering school, we have a surprisingly large number of programs. If you're coming in through Dartmouth, obviously the AB program is the program of interest, and that's our AB in engineering. But we have the Bachelor of Engineering as well, which is commonly considered a fifth year. We have the Master of Science. We have the Master of Engineering Management. We have a new what's called MEng program I'll talk to you about. And then we have the PhD program. And so I see the 18-year-old kids when they come in, and in first-year orientation week, I set up a table right out here in the atrium and try to explain to them what biomedical engineering at Thayer is, because we are not like MIT or Johns Hopkins or the big schools. That's not our approach. We're a very liberal arts engineering approach. And so we don't have what I would call a traditional biomedical engineering program. We have an engineering science program, and I would say the majority of our students really should go through that pathway. And we have a smaller biomedical engineering that's specifically for pre-meds or people looking to go into health profession. And so the question I usually ask is, are you interested in healthcare as your future life? And if the answer is yes, then they take that pathway. If the answer is no, most of them say no. I want to be an engineer or work in consulting or doing something technical with math or design. And so if that's the answer, then engineering science is really the major. And then that takes you through the pathway of math, physics, engineering, internships, potentially the BE program, looking at recruiting, potentially grad school. But basically their goal is engineering primarily. And so we, about 8 years ago, we created what we call biomedical engineering major. But this is really for people who want their future life to be medical-based, right? An MD, doctor of veterinary medicine, doctor of orthopedics, some kind of healthcare focus. And so that's really, at Thayer, that's really our differentiation. And because we have a liberal arts approach to engineering anyway, the students taking the engineering science path will get a broad-based engineering education. And really, they can do the Bachelor of Engineering, the BE program, with a biomedical focus. And that's probably a better outcome for most students. And here I say, this is when they come to the table, I would say about a third of them say they want to be in engineering. About a third of them say they want to be a medical eventually, medicine or some kind of medical degree. And then obviously about a third of them say they don't know. And that's okay, but they'll figure it out. We have a special program with the Geisel School of Medicine, and again, this was created about 8 years ago. And so 1 to 2 biomedical engineering majors who are at the top of the class can gain early admission to the Geisel. It's not for everybody, but certainly for some. So this is in their junior year, the fall of their junior year. We interview them. We offer them a spot with early admission guaranteed to the Geisel School of Medicine. And so here's John Mascari was back in the 13 year. Giulio Campo was 14. And we actually had nobody interested in the program fifth year, or in the 15 year. And then in the 16 year, we've got Yvette Zhu who's going in. But we've had anywhere from 0 up to 10 applicants into this program. And, I usually tell them, 8 years is a long time to be in Hanover. You really want to make sure you want to spend another 4 years in Hanover, right? Because that's what you're up for. And most students are not interested in that, but some really are. The style of Geisel School of Medicine really gels with them. They really like the idea of early admission guarantee, and so it's a good program for them. I advise a lot of the biomedical engineers, and so I wind up doing a handful of senior theses, and I do advise them if you want to go to med school, senior thesis is a great idea because you get involved in research, you might publish something, but you'll get a sense of what medicine is like, and the type of senior theses that students do in the biomedical engineering program are very health-oriented. So here's a case example. This is a home run. Obviously, I'm going to show you the best example I've ever seen. Right. This is the best outcome I've ever seen here at Thayer, and so I'm going to show it to you as a case example. So Matt came to me. He just walked into my office one day and said, I read your work, and I'd like to do a senior thesis with you. And so we came up with this idea of looking at breast cancer tissue and trying to figure out what a pathologist sees when they look through a microscope. And, of course, what a pathologist sees is light scattering in the tissue. They stain it, but actually a surgical pathologist has to look at frozen sections without any stain. And so what causes the light scattering that they look at in a microscope? And to dig into that, we did electron microscopy. We worked with now the chair of pathology, and she helped us secure fresh tissue sections from surgical cases. We did electron microscopy on it, and we wound up publishing a paper on estimating what causes scattering in breast cancer samples. And it was a great outcome. Now he went on, did a bunch of things, and I usually advise them there's all kinds of opportunities through the Tucker Foundation and the Dickey Foundation here on campus to get more involved in outreach, medical outreach. And so he did that, wound up going to UMass Amherst for his MD, got a residency at Washington, MPH at Harvard Med School, and now he's a general surgeon at University of Washington in Seattle. So obviously, this is the sort of thing. He did a senior thesis, and it really did help him on his path. It wasn't the only thing in his path, but it was one milestone on his CV, on his med school application that helped him along his path. And it helped us, too. We've carried on this research for many years now, and we're just received a $3 million industry academic partnership grant with Perkin-Elmer to build a surgical imaging system to image specimens during lumpectomy surgery. So, for me as a researcher, it was, again, one little milestone marker, but a very important one that helped us along that way in our research program. So that's the AB experience. Now the BE, going beyond that, many students choose to do the BE program, the Bachelor of Engineering. It's roughly 9 courses plus this 8990 capstone design sequence. There's financial aid available through Thayer, and it's about 1 year. About a quarter of the students pack it all into 4 years. We usually encourage them to not necessarily do that because you also have to have a social life and enjoy your experience at Dartmouth. And so we, ask them if they really want to pack all the courses in, and most students do it in maybe less than a full year. And I'll talk a little bit about these research-based degrees, MS and PhD, but they're obviously much longer commitment in time. So the BE program, the focus is doing more engineering classes, right? So you really get the level of engineering depth that you would get at any engineering school. But I would say the thing we really specialize in and do well here, I think, is the 8990 capstone design sequence. And this is a classic situation where they're put together in teams of 3 to 5 students. Those students work for a company. So the company kicks in $5,000, and they say, we have this problem, we would like a team of students to work on it. So those team of students work on the problem, and one of the sponsors is the Dartmouth hybrid racing program, but many of the sponsors are actually companies. I took this from the Thayer Flickr page. I thought this was amusing. I don't know if you can see it, but it says it's been blurred out and says proprietary on there. So they're obviously working on something top secret or something that the company or their sponsor didn't want a picture of up on our Flickr website. And so presumably they're patenting it, or it's some proprietary design for the company. I think a big piece of this is that they do multiple presentations. They get critiqued on those presentations. As you know, in professional life, presenting your work is critical, and being able to do a good job of it is absolutely essential piece of being an engineer. This was a lightweight aircraft control design, a team that worked with the aircraft company to create a lightweight design for ultralight aircraft. And then obviously they graduate. So this is really our capstone design. It's the culminating piece of a BE program, and we do it well. Just next year, we are creating and establishing the MEng program. So this is brand new in our graduate program. It's for students who have a Bachelor of Engineering and would like to get a Master of Engineering, and we're test running it in Biomedical Engineering only. So it's a course-based degree program, 9 courses, and you get a master's degree. And we have a large research infrastructure in biomedical engineering here, and so we have the capacity to take in more students to enhance their education, and so we've created this. Many of our peers have this kind of a degree program. Cornell has a very large one, and so we've decided that this would be a good idea to try and to see if there are enough interested applicants to carry it on. But let me talk to you about research. That's one of the things that brought me to Thayer 19 years ago. We have, when we speak and analyze who we are here at Thayer, we roughly say there's 3 categories of biomedical engineering. There's the bioengineering piece, which bioengineering is really code for sort of biochemical engineering or life science-based engineering. There's the imaging and instrumentation folks. They tend to be electrical engineering, and I'm roughly in that category. And then there's the biomechanics and microstructure materials type engineers. And we have, for such a small engineering school, it never fails to amaze me how many faculty we have. We only have, I forget the number, I think it's 55 faculty listed at Thayer. But when I do the count, I count 46 faculty are actually in biomedical engineering. And so I've tried to, this is a little bit dangerous, I've tried to put different faculty's names in bins, and anytime somebody tries to tell me what type of research I do, I say, no, I get very defensive and say they haven't really pinned me down properly. But this is roughly the array of just the full-time faculty and roughly what bin they wind up in. So these are the types of engineering that we do, biomedical engineering. And the 18 adjunct faculty are largely out at Geisel, but they are physical science or engineering trained faculty who have adjunct appointments here. And so, when people ask me what do I do for research at Thayer, what do the faculty at Thayer do for research, this is what I say. I say we drive national and international impact in R&D. And that's a pretty big statement to say from a little tiny engineering school in the New Hampshire woods. But I truly believe that's what we do, and I'll show you in the next couple of slides. We and faculty are involved in organizing conferences and workshops. We shape national funding decisions. We publish original research and critical analysis, and we educate scientific leaders. So the PhD graduates who I've been involved with over the years are now faculty at other institutions. They're CEOs of their own companies. And I feel very good that we produce people who are national leaders. So let me give you a little, I'm going to bring it home and give you a little personal vignette. I thought this is just to give you some of my motivation. So I have a grandfather. He was born in 1900. He was a shoe salesman throughout his life. And he, in the 1920s and 30s, there was this X-ray machine that people would use. They'd stand on it. It would, X-ray their foot, and they could see how well their foot fit their shoe. Right? Well, it became very obvious that by the World War II that this was a bad use of X-rays because A, it's reckless, and B, people are getting massive doses of radiation. So he died of a brain tumor in 1952. So very clearly, radiation can be used in very bad ways or very constructive ways. So this is a trivial, obviously meaningful example for me of a situation where medical imaging was used in the wrong situation. Now let me give you another personal vignette. I have a father, born in 1929. He lived a great life. In 1990, he got colon cancer. Right? Well, so what happened? Well, he got surgery, chemotherapy, lived for another 20 years. In 2010, he had a heart attack, had a heart bypass, valve replacement, and here he is today, 2015, 86 years old, and he should have died twice. There's no doubt in my mind. Right? He should have died in 1990 if there wasn't imaging and technology to save him. He should have died in 2010, again, if there wasn't imaging and technology to save him. And so this is, again, a trivial example, and I think, we say this all the time, but this is a very concrete example of the fact that advances in imaging and therapy extend lives. Right? Very concrete. Of course, we're very good at acute problems. We're actually not very good at chronic problems, diabetes, long-term situations. But so I usually say to people, if you're going to have a healthcare disaster, it should be acute, as acute as possible, because we're very good at solving acute problems. So again, he's lucky. He had two very acute problems, and has now, extended his life. So let me tell you just 3 or 4 slides. My research. I focus on optics. My training is in optics and medicine, and we have the Optics and Medicine Research Laboratory where we focus on molecular imaging. And so we build devices, write software, grow tumors in rats and mice, image them, and develop procedures to do human imaging with molecular sensitivity. So over the last decade, we've been advancing this idea of guiding surgery with molecules. So we developed an industry partnership program, and I see Sally Hall here in the audience. She's essentially running this program for us right now. We are developing a drug. We're actually got NIH funding to pay for the drug development, so general good manufacturing production of that drug. And then on the engineering side, we build camera systems that can image that drug during surgery, image the fluorescence from the drug. We have a large infrastructure of small animal imaging, so we work with mice, rats, rabbits, do very translational imaging type research. And with the neurosurgery department here at Dartmouth Hitchcock, we're planning next year to do the first in human surgical trial. So this is a drug that localizes if you're in the healthcare world, it localizes to a receptor on the cancer cells, the epidermal growth factor receptor, and it fluoresces. And so it will help the surgeon to do the resection based on the molecular expression of the tumor rather than just on the structures that he or she sees. So this has been an enormous piece of why I'm here at Thayer in Dartmouth, and we've had, by my count, we've got over 50 publications. I've seen 8 PhD students graduate. We've had well over 10 undergraduate interns work at different pieces of this program. We work with about 4 surgical faculty. There's about 5 Thayer faculty involved. We have 3 major grants from the NIH, $6 million roughly, and we work with a handful of companies on it. So, again, this is the best example I can think of why, I'm at such a very small engineering school in the middle of New Hampshire, but I really feel like we're doing research that has, national impact and has a major influence on where medicine is going to go tomorrow. Another little vignette. Radiation therapy is given to about half of cancer patients today, or 2/3 actually by some counts. So most people who get cancer will receive radiation therapy. The interesting thing about radiation is it's invisible. You can't see it. And so one of the things we discovered about 5 years ago is that we could create a camera system that would image radiation as it hits tissue. And it works because there's a little tiny optical emission called Cherenkov emission. And so we created a specialized camera system that picks up that light emission coming from the tissue and visualizes it. And so we published this last year. This is a woman getting whole breast irradiation. So this is her breast here. You can see her breathing. And in fact, we published these last year. It's the first ever video of radiation hitting tissue. So again, pretty cool stuff, has a very real impact, and we are creating something that's never been created before. This is an unfortunate individual who's getting whole body radiation. He has a syndrome called mucosis fungoides, which infects his entire skin, and so the treatment for this is that you irradiate the entire skin surface, and it's difficult to see that under this light, but it is a real-time video of him getting treatment. And this was a perfect application of this imaging system because you could see that we discovered that they've been underdosing the legs of these patients. And so we had them alter the treatment plan. The old plan actually had a fairly low dose to the legs and calves, and the new plan, has a much better coverage. And so, again, we had a very real impact. They've been underdosing patients in their leg area for, by my estimation, 20 years, and this is a therapy that's done nationwide. So, again, if you don't know what you're doing and you can't see it, if you can't see what you're doing, you don't know that you're underdosing. We've published about 20 papers in this area, 3 PhD students, had 3 undergrad interns, 1 Engineering 21 team. We work with radiation oncology faculty, have 1 NIH grant, and we've spun off a company. So there's a spin-off company, Dose Optics, that just received just received a $1.2 million startup grant from NIH. So again, we're here in a place that is seemingly small and not big on research, but if you have the right idea, you can do translational research here in a very big way. And that's one of the things that has attracted me here. And that brings me to the last thing I wanted to talk about, which is infrastructure. When I came in 1996, we had a lab about the size of these two tables. Literally, you'd open the door and hit the table in the Borwell research labs, in the surgical research laboratories in Borwell. And this is an aerial view of the Dartmouth Hitchcock Medical Center. I don't know if you've seen this before, but so this is the main hospital here. The patient wings are down here, and the research side of the hospital is here. But it's largely Geisel School of Medicine. And so we've had little tiny spaces in surgical labs. But since I've been there, it's sort of grown, and we've gotten moved around. We were in radiation oncology, then we were in surgery. Now we're back in the cancer center. But in 2006, I believe, or maybe circa 2006, they extended the cancer center, and we received a good amount of space, about 1,200 square feet in the cancer center. And so that's expanded our footprint. In 2013, Keith Paulson created the Advanced Imaging Center, and I'll show you the inside of that, and the Center for Surgical Innovation. And so this was created by the engineering school through winning NIH research grants. And so this is major infrastructure that has been implanted by the engineering school. And then in 2015, in August of this year, Thayer has bought half of a floor in the new Williamson Research Building. And so I'm really excited because my laboratory is going to be there, and this is 9,000 square feet of space in the Translational Research Building. So we've gone, in the 19 years I've been here, we've gone from a little closet essentially to many, many infrastructures. And for me, it's interesting to realize that, when you walk around the Thayer School of Engineering, you obviously don't think about these infrastructures because they're all out at the medical center. But without these, we really can't do translational research. And so students go out there, they hop on the bus, the advanced transit, the bus takes them out there, and they can do, real research if they choose to. And it's amazing because, I see, 19-year-old kids saying they want to do research, and we can get them involved in human imaging and human surgery research if they would like to be. It's a time commitment, but that's the sort of real-life experience they can be involved in. And so this is the Center for Surgical Innovation, and so this is one of this infrastructure over here. Let me just show you the inside of it. It was funded by a $10 million grant from the NIH, and the Dartmouth Hitchcock kicked in a matching $6 million. Thayer kicked in a matching $2.5 million, and Geisel School of Medicine kicked in a $2.5 million. And so it's 2 operating rooms with a MRI, or a magnetic resonance imaging system, and a CT imaging system on rails. So it's 100% research space. So every patient who goes into this operating room is on some kind of a research trial, and it's a collaborative research between Thayer and the med school. So here's a little video. Let me just show you inside of it. They're very large operating rooms because engineers love to create equipment, and so we pack these rooms with carts and stuff. This is Keith Paulson. He's probably the reason I'm here. He hired me 19 years ago, and I came to work with him. And so this is, you can see an MRI scanner on rails. So the surgeon can do their surgery, and then when they realize that they need some kind of an internal image, they slide the MRI scanner over to take an image. There's 2 operating rooms. One is human only, one is human and animal. So we do large animal surgery in this other operating room. This is Sohail Mirza, who's the head of orthopedic surgery here, and he's the co-director of it with Keith because he does these very complicated spinal surgeries where they're pinning together vertebrae or doing very delicate surgery where you really do need some kind of internal image during the operating room. Now, I'm always careful to say we're not proposing this for the rest of the world because this is ridiculously expensive. You know, most hospitals should not have this kind of a situation. This is a research laboratory where we can determine which type of operations require internal imaging and look for exploratory ways to do surgical imaging. So let me skip that. So here we are. It's 12,000 square feet, 2 operating rooms. They call it the largest, most advanced surgical research facility of its kind. I think that's true because it's very rare for a hospital to have this much space that's not used for regular operating. This is 100% research space, and that's extremely unusual. 2 diagnostic procedure rooms, control rooms, conference room with HD observation feed. And so there's a very large control viewing area for visiting surgeons and engineers. And then there's a very large operating and imaging room areas. Again, surgeons and engineers are inside the operating room. So great space. Again, Keith Paulson, this is Keith Paulson's baby. Just fantastic showpiece for the type of research that we can do here. So this just shows you the first surgical case. Actually, you can't really see much, but the patient is completely draped here on the bed. They're in the midst of the operation, and then they slide the MRI scanner in to take an image of the patient. So that's it. I'm a little bit early, but I did want to give you little vignettes, you know, but again, the 4 pieces that I talked about, and for those who came in late, I talked a little bit about student programs, the degree programs, research and infrastructure. The package is pretty compelling. It's the reason I'm here, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions. So, thank you. Any questions? Yeah?
If a student, I mean, I'm not from a medical or engineering background, but if a student, while he's here, makes some incredible, amazing, marketable invention, who owns that invention?
Well, so they would patent it, right?
The student would, or their school?
It's interesting. We're in an interesting transition time. You know, Tilman Gerngross, one of Thayer professors, just took over as director of technology transfer here. So we're in a transition time. In the past, I'll say that students, if they would like to patent something, Dartmouth would patent it for them. And there's some sharing of the IP that goes on. But Dartmouth controls the rights to the patent.
Or would it make any difference whether the student was paying tuition himself or whether he was getting sponsored by the school?
No, because I think their view is it's all Dartmouth. I mean, it was created at Dartmouth as part of an education program. I'm probably not the best person to answer that question, but
Another way to think about it is if you would be an employee of a company receiving a salary to do research, and then you would invent something, your contract would stipulate that the invention belongs to the company because they're paying you a salary.
they're paying you a salary, yeah.
Students, you might have half of the students paying tuition, but the other half of the students receiving some kind of scholarship.
Financial aid,
Maybe
yeah.
there'd be a difference between whether they were paying you or you were paying them, and then
Yeah.
you invented something.
I see what you're saying. There's definitely no difference based on tuition or scholarship or anything. I believe there is a policy. I don't know exactly what it is, but you know, of course, it costs $10,000 to $20,000 to patent something. So Dartmouth will pay that. They have a law firm that they contract with to do patenting and to help students write a patent as well. And they'll write the patent for them and have the student edit it. So that kind of service is available and is commonly used. If you go upstairs, there's a patent wall up there where I forget the number of patents we're generating per year, but it's pretty high. Do you know the number?
I don't know the number, but on the patent wall, there's 40 to 50 patents at least. That's an estimate off the top of my head.
There's actually 171 on the wall right now.
Yeah, okay. And it's something like 20 per year? Or it's in that...
It depends. would say the average is 17 a year.
17 a year, okay, yeah. And a good number of those do have students on them. I think it's the rare one where it's all student team doing it, but that probably happens about once per year.
And in the last 10
Entire-
years, I think there have been 19 student teams.
Okay, so about,
Teams
so-
and 23 student faculty combos.
so about twice a year, students patent something by themselves with Dartmouth's assistance. But okay, so that is changing, and what it's going to change to is not totally clear to me. But there is an innovation center over on the other side of campus downtown, across from the Black Visual Arts Center, where student teams students can go to get assistance in starting up a company, running a company, and part of their mandate is to see those companies succeed. There may be some issue with Dartmouth having some minor amount of equity in the company, but that's negotiated on a one-by-one cases. I know because I have a spin-off company, which we're just working on now, where Dartmouth has helped us spin it off, and they're taking a small equity stake, but not a major one. It's on the ballpark of 5%. Yep.
Any observations on how students have changed over 20 years at Thesis?
They're getting younger. They feel like babies to me now. No, I think, well, definitely the student today is much more interested in entrepreneurial activities, startup. I mean, they've grown up with Facebook, so they all want to be the next Zuckerberg. And so there is a very strong focus on engineering, and we've seen a major shift in majors towards engineering and computer science. That's nationwide, not just at Thayer, but especially at Thayer as well. One of the things that struck me is the number of women in engineering. I mean, when I first came, it was definitely in the ballpark of 20%, and now you probably read the news that we're now up to 42% in the graduating class and 48% next year. So, I mean, that's astounding. But, of course, I'm in biomedical engineering. Biomedical engineering has always been close to parity with women and men. So that's been a shift. But I would say much more electronic, much more savvy. And because of that, I think the electronic tools that people have today help them collaborate a bit more. When they do projects in 21 or their capstone design, they can always find each other with their cell phones. So that's fantastic. 20 years ago, it took a lot of coordination. Before the internet existed, if you can believe that, right? It took a lot of effort to coordinate. So that's a big, big change. Other questions? Good. Okay, well, yeah?
Do you have any biomedical research in chronic disease areas such as diabetes management and monitoring tools?
There definitely is. Barger Gimme is adjunct here, and he's working on diabetes management studies, doing they're implantable. They're working on some implantable devices for stimulating secretions in the pancreas. Pretty amazing stuff. I would say it's pretty early stage, but that exists. My area is more. I'm 100% cancer focused, so I'm kind of blindsided or blinded to anything else but cancer. The questions? Good. Well, thank you. Enjoy your weekend.